In this video, I will show you how to easily deploy a simple standalone React application in a production environment using Docker. As you will see, it's very easy and requires minimal effort. So without further ado, let's get started. So to deploy a React application with Docker, what do we need? Right, a React application. So let's create one. I will do this using vite, and this is very easy. First, I open a terminal and type npm create vite at latest. Of course, you need to have npm installed on your machine to be able to run this command. When you run this command for the first time, you will be asked if you want to install the create vite package. Just answer yes and continue. Then you have to choose a name. I just type in vite docker test and choose React as framework and TypeScript in the next step. Then I just have to run npm install to load all the dependencies, and that's it. Now I open the new project in VS Code where we will continue. So what we have now is the typical starter React project from vite. We can run it in dev mode by typing npm run dev in the terminal. When we open it in the browser, we see the example page. So how do we get this into a production environment? Right now we are running the project in dev mode, which we also see here with React DevTools. This is not intended to be used in production. Well, if you take a look at the package.json file, we see there is another script that we can use called build. So let's run npm run build in the terminal. This will create a new folder called dist, containing some files, an index.html, a CSS file, a JavaScript file, and some other stuff. To quickly check this, we run npm run preview, which will serve the static files from the dist folder. Alright, looks good so far. Now let's see how we can deploy this project in a production environment using Docker. We already know npm run build will give us the dist folder with the static files. So all we need is a simple web server to serve those static files. And we will do this with nginx. So let's create a new Docker file. We will create a multi-stage Docker file. The first stage is to build our source with npm run build as we did before. The second stage is to define the file image with nginx. That way we end up with a Docker image that only contains nginx and the static files, but we don't ship all the npm stuff with node modules that we don't need. So we start with from node 18 as builder. We need to install node so we can run npm commands. And name the stage we are defining builder. We will need that name later. Then we set the working directory to app. Then we copy package.json and packagelog.json from our local source directory to the current working directory. This will allow us to run npm install, which will install all the dependencies we need. Then we copy the entire local source folder into the containers app directory. Now we can run npm run build, which will create the dist folder with the static source files as we saw before. Okay, so now we have built our project. So the builder phase is over. Now let's define the final stage. As I said, we will use nginx to serve the static files. So I write from nginx alpine as runner. Then we set a new working directory. This is the directory where nginx serves static files by default. This makes the next step obvious. We copy all the files from the dist folder we created earlier into the working directory. Don't forget to specify the builder stage here. Now we are almost done. All we need to do now is expose port 80, which is nginx default port, and start nginx. And that's it. Now let's build the image. This may take some time, especially when the base images are loaded for the first time, but eventually it will be done. Then we can start the container like this. Bind the port 80 of the container to port 4711, for example. Now if we go to the browser and we go to localhost 4711, we see our React application. So we see that our Docker production setup is working. Awesome. What do you think about the solution? Do you like it? Would you do it differently? Let me know in the comments. Maybe you're interested in how to create a context menu in React. If so, watch this video next. Thanks for watching. Bye.